Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name is Jade, and this is How to App on iOS. And today, we're going to be hanging out with the Director of Software of Moog, Music, and many, many more. It is Geert Bevin. And let's kick off by playing a little bit of music by the man himself. This is a Peter Gabriel cover on the arpeggi called Blood of Eden. Enjoy.
Sight of my reflection, I caught it in the window. I saw the darkness in my heart. I saw the signs of my undoing. They had been there from the start. And the darkness still has work to do. The knotted cords untying, the heated and the holy, oh, they're sitting there on high, so secure with everything they're buying in the blood of Eden. Light a woman and the man, with the man in the woman, and a woman and a man, in the blood of Eden. Light a woman and the man, we wanted the union. Oh, the union of the woman and the man. Grip is surely slipping. I think I've lost my hold. Yes, I think I've lost my hold. I cannot get insurance anymore. They don't take credit, only gold. Is that a dagger or a crucifix I see? You hold so tightly in your hands, and all the while the distance grows between you and me. I do not understand. In the blood of Eden, light a woman and a man, with a man and a woman, and a woman and a man, in the blood of Eden. Light a woman and a man, we wanted the union. Oh, the union of the woman and the man. And my request, you take me in that tenderness. I am floating away, no certainty, nothing to rely on, holding still for that moment. What a moment this is. What a moment of forgetting. A moment of bliss. the distant thunder of a million unheard souls, of a million unheard souls. Watch each one reach for creature comfort, for the failing of their holes in the blood of Eden. Lie the woman and the man, with the man and the woman, and the woman and the man, in the blood of Eden. Lie the woman and the man, we wanted the union, for the woman and the man, in the blood of Eden. Lie the woman and the man, I feel the man in the woman, and the woman in the man, in the blood of Eden. Lie the woman and the man, I feel the man in the woman, and the woman in the man, in the blood of Eden. We have done everything we can in the blood of Eden. So it ends as we began, with the man and the woman, and the woman in the man. It was all for the union. Oh, the union of the woman and the man.
Wow. There's a lesson right there, folks, in how to perform music. What an amazing performance. One of my favourite Peter Gabriel songs, as soon as I saw that pop up, once it was sent to me, I was just so excited to open with that. Hi, I hope you're all doing well. Welcome to the show. It's the end of the week for me. It's Friday, Thursday for the rest of you in the world. This is How to App on iOS. I'm Jade, and today we have a fantastic live interview happening for you, like we do every week on this show. And I'm super pumped to get into it. But first, as well, not always, sometimes, but we have to get in and mention today's sponsor, because today's sponsor is our amazing friends, DistroKid. There's the thing. There it is, DistroKid. Do you know about DistroKid? If you need to release your music across all of the amazing platforms like Apple and Spotify and Amazon and you name it, there's so many that you actually release your music to. I don't remember half of them, and they've got names that I've never heard of, and that's really cool. And you can do that with DistroKid for the incredibly low annual price of $22.99. But see that over there in the corner? distrokid.com/VIP/Jade Starr. You can use that code for your first year and get 7% off for the first year, of course, off your plan. And there's 3 plans you can choose from. The first one, the musician plan, you get one artist, $23 a year, unlimited music you can release. I've been using DistroKid since, 2016 or some crazy thing like that, and I love DistroKid. I use the ultimate plan on the end, which is $90 a year, because I have way too many artists to keep track of, and they just keep growing. But DistroKid, once again, is our sponsor, and as always, I thank you, DistroKid, and I'm going to do the creepy thing like I always do. I love you, DistroKid. See, it amuses me. Anyway. All right, let's get into it today and welcome everybody in the chat. I'm so thankful that you are here. What we do normally is we jump into the interview and then we'll say hello to you after maybe the second song that we play. Let people come in and you guys chat away and have a good time. If you are a member here on the channel, you've got a whole bunch of custom emojis. And if you type Geert in the chat, you'll come up with, if you are a member, the custom emoji to have today's special guest. So there's you've got your own emoji, Geert. All right, cool. He is the director of software of Moog Music, amongst many, many things. As you can hear, a multi-instrumentalist, super talented. We're going to find out all about it today. I'm super excited. Please welcome to the show Geert Bevin, how are you, my friend?
Hey Jade, thanks for having me on.
Let me
This is awesome. I love your show. I love the community, and yeah, thanks for doing this.
thank you.
Just for the people in the chat, I can't see the chat, but I'm all open for fielding questions, or if you have anything you're curious about, just like let Jade know, and I guess it will come in the conversations at one point.
I will definitely keep monitoring as we go on if there's any questions. I want to ask you about that instrument because everybody's asking about it. I know there's one person who got it right. Tell us about this instrument that you just played there. What a beautiful thing.
It's an amazing instrument. It's called the Harpeggi, made by a company that's called Marcoti. Like doing so much experimentation in the MPE world, I had been looking at the Harpeggi for a long time and then never really could justify the cost, really. And I still remember like being on business trips and sort of geeking out at the website and looking at all the different finishes and like, do I want a small one? If I would get one, can I get away with a small one? But no, I actually want a little bit more strings. Because one of the things you have to know that is unique about the Harpeggi is that the intervals between the strings is just 2 semitones. So you've got a lot of repetition. You don't have a large range. But the cool thing is that anywhere you are on the surface, there's always a pattern that works that is like really close to where you want to play. So the duplication sort of makes it more user-friendly and more intuitive in that way. So if you get a smaller one, the range is kind of limited. And then one year I was at the NAMM show, and I think this might have been one of the only years that Marcoti had a little booth, and they were all the way like down in the cellar. Like if you used to go to the NAMM shows, like you had to sort of, if you're like a new company, you had to pay your dues and sort of graduate from the cellar before you could be on the main floor. Like you gotta get through this. So they were like part of the graduation crowd, and they had this really cool setup with multiple Harpeggis, and just like on any NAMM show, like Stevie Wonder was doing his rounds, and he plays a Harpeggi. And so he went to the booth, and I just happened to be there, and he played on a Harpeggi, and a really beautiful one. And that's sort of what did it for me. It's like, okay, well, this is the one that Stevie played. I've always wanted to buy one. Can I buy this one? And so I bought that one, and that's the one that's right there. Been taking it everywhere I move to because it's one of my favorite instruments that I have around me.
That is sick. Like, not only is it an amazing instrument, and I was looking them up before the show. They're not cheap, but it's Stevie Wonder's, man. It's Stevie Wonder's. That is sick. Now, are you a fan of Peter Gabriel?
Yeah, man, like Peter Gabriel, all his work is just incredible. And that song is like every single time I hear that song, I have tears welling up, and it's just such a genuine emotional song, such beautiful harmonies and tension and changes and lyrics, and just talk about the humanity of it all. And Peter Gabriel is amazing.
Yeah, I went through the tracks you sent me last night, and because I normally do that. I wait till the night before to listen to everything, and I put it on. I sat here, was in tears, going, "Oh my God, I can't believe it's this song." I'm like, I'm so glad I'm not on camera right now. It was a blubbering mess. It was wicked, and I had to open with it because it's beautiful performance, and a lot of the music. You're in for a treat tonight, folks. Trust me, the music that Geert has sent me is it's such a beautiful smattering of what you do, which is so many things, which we're going to get into. But first, I want to ask you, what does music mean to you?
Music is a wave to. That's a big question.
Tough one,
I think
straight up.
It's at one end a way to come together with people. It's a way to convey things that. Like I'm the type of musician that will be rehearsing for months until I get something that is right. I'm not a jammer, but it allows me to express something very profound and to share that with people in any way that they want to give it their energy and attention. And it's sort of like, when you have a social conversation with someone and then often afterwards you're like, man, I wish I had said this and this would have been really cool to talk about, and I didn't pick up on that thing. And music is sort of this asynchronous way of getting my inner emotions out.
Yeah.
One way for me to look at it. Another way is just energy. Energy is something that drives my life in so many ways. Music is a big ball of lightning that can be shared between people and internalized, externalized, just like martial arts and coding. That's how I look at programming too. It's another way to convey a unique creation that can maybe bring a little bit of like light in people's lives and make the existence like more bearable.
You from my time knowing you, which is brief, yeah, but and going through and watching your channel and being your friend on Facebook, you make things look very effortless. Right? That's just my observation. Do things like music come easy to you, or are you like the rest of us, totally always criticizing yourself and adding that extra adage of perfection on top?
Oh, of course, I do all of that. It's like, I'm sure you've all seen that, but it's like that cartoon where you see someone drawing a magnificent picture and then someone else like, how did you do this? How are you so talented? And then the person like, it's practice. And like, no, I don't understand. How do you get there? Well, it's practice. It's like, there's no secret. Like it's practice. It's sitting there like everyone else, doing the things I do. One of the things I stopped doing a long time ago is procrastinating release. In the beginning, it was like, oh, it's not perfect yet. I'm not going to put it out there. Oh, it could be better than this. I stopped doing that. I've just started putting things out there. Everything is ephemeral. Everything will pass. Everything will be better. You'll have a new version. You'll have different ideas. You'll have different affinities, tastes, instruments, friends, social relationships, life. Like everything will change. So just putting things out there, as soon as it is in some form, an entity, that's what I've started doing a while ago. And something sticks, all the better. If it doesn't, that's fine. I'll look back at things I put out there. It's like, how did I dare publishing this?
I'm exactly the same. But this is the thing that we don't think about, is that we put these things out and look back as an artist and go, oh God, that's so cringe. But that song that you're cringing over means something to a group of people. So you got to remember not to criticize it like in front of those people. I've made that mistake so many times and gone, oh God, I hate that song. I'm so much better now. And they're like, oh, that's one of my favorite songs of yours. And it's like, oh no, I just shit all over what this person's favorite thing is. Yeah, absolutely.
And if it's only one person that you can touch, it's worth it. It's what it's all about to me. So yeah,
absolutely.
And sometimes it comes like 10 years later. Like if like people all of a sudden comment on an old YouTube video, like I don't know which one that was. Like, I just used this for my dance class and everyone loved it. It's like, yay!
Nice. So we've talked about what music means to you. What does development mean to you?
It's all the same thing. It's all different ways of expressing yourself. To me, like a lot of things come back to, I always think back about the chi, the life energy and the life force that is in all the things that you do, which is why I've always done martial arts in some form or fashion. I think it's the same thing with music, with coding, just being able to stay true to that life force and being able to exchange it with people and mutate it and have people make it better. Like it's always, this is my doggy. She's agreeing, I think, or just dreaming.
She's beautiful. She is beautiful. And we made sure we got her in the shot, everybody, of course, because, you know, YouTube, live videos and doggos, man. Everyone loves a doggo.
Right. So, yeah, it's like, and then when you're honest in what you do, and I know this is kind of a little bit like out there, but the older I get, the more I think about these things. When you're honest with what you do and then are able to work with people that are also honest, and if you have a line of code that you look at and you're like, dude, like that algorithm you wrote is just a piece of art. It's like, it's just as beautiful as like a geometrical drawing you hang on your wall, or a beautiful piece of music that you've written. The cool thing about writing code, and that is why I've always gravitated towards that, is that you can create universes for people to express themselves with. You can come up and craft a new reality with whatever parameters that you come up with, and then be blown away by what people do with it. It's like it's the same thing with making musical instruments, but like with any piece of code you write, and then you put it out there, and then someone comes back and it's like, dude, I just like make this video light show and it's controlling all of the blahs over everywhere, and look at people dancing on it. It's like insane.
Yeah. It's interesting too, because with music, like I think that they're very hand in hand. I'm not a coder. I don't ever profess to being one. I used to be a jailbreaker. That's the closest I got to it, and made some tweaks. but with music, you get to see the process more mainstream. Where coding, a lot of people mainstream don't see what goes behind it. But every day we're immersed in these worlds and apps that take us to these places. So, but it is exactly the same thing. But it's almost like the Matrix to me. You know, it's all this code just running down the screen that is amazing. It blows my mind. When you were a kid, do you remember the first computer you were given?
I was not given a computer.
You had to buy one. What was that?
So let me dial that question back a little bit more.
Sure.
I was fascinated by coding before I had a computer. I was imagining the incredible worlds that I could create by telling a machine what it could do and giving it parameters where it could sort of operate within. And as a kid, I spent a lot of time in the bookstores reading the initial programming books and imagining what things would look like. And then I would go home and I would take my notebook and I would write programs without a computer.
Oh, wow.
It was like, if I do this there and this there, I'm pretty sure that will happen. And it was just like imagining it. And it's like, okay, well, if I do that thing, then I'm pretty sure that will happen. And I had these pages and pages of handwritten code, and I really wanted to have a computer. So my parents, and thank them for doing that, really believed that I had to show that I was interested in like investing myself into this type of endeavor. And they would not give me a computer, but they would allow me to have activities that would pay for it. So I ended up making, and my mom helped with that. And like, I didn't do this by myself, and my grandma helped with it. But what ended up sort of getting me to buy my Commodore 64, I mean, I was using a VIC-20 at a friend's, but then the Commodore 64 was the first one I purchased that I had at home. I was making these greeting cards, and they were unique in that we went out and we picked flowers and we dried them for several months, and then we arranged them like in a beautiful sort of shape. We glued them on the greeting card, and then we took like these rulers where the letters are like cut out and you can follow with your pen, and it's just wrote the greeting cards. And then basically went around acquaintances, went around my grandma, she had a beauty center, like I put a stack there, and over the course of, it must have been over a year and a half, I got enough to take a jar of coins to the Fnac, which is one of the stores in Belgium, in France, which is like an electronics store, but also a bookstore, the store that actually read those books. It's like, here's a jar. I'm pretty sure that this is enough for a Commodore 64.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, and then I went home with my Commodore 64, and I didn't have a monitor. I hooked it up with a shitty TV.
Yeah.
Tried out my code, and nothing worked. Obviously, because it's code. There's way more bugs than lines of code.
Yeah, I talked about this here on the channel many times. My dad tried to like connect with me with my Commodore 64, and we'd come in my bedroom with the latest magazine, and we'd sit there all through the night. I'm typing with him reading out to me. And then we get to the end and hit run and syntax error line 3. Yeah. And after 10,000 lines, and then it was the next night going through all the errors.
And then first, I didn't have money for a tape deck.
Oh, wow.
I only had money for the Commodore 64. So I typed things in, and it's like, cool, guess it's working. And then my mom comes upstairs like, you got to shut off the computer. It's like, okay, next day started up. Just little blinky thing, the cursor just sitting there. Yeah, okay, guess we'll type something new.
Because floppy drives then too was super. They're almost as much as the computer, you know.
Oh yeah,
yeah, it was crazy. Somebody's put through a question. We had many vibes put through and find this question. How did you ever get to know about coding at all? What was the first book or movie or person that inspired it?
There was, we had a local library that did a lot of different cultural things. And one of the things they had was sort of on a pedestal. I think it was a VIC-20 where they had logo running on it. It was a little turtle. And you could sort of tell it to go forward, turn around, go left and right. And that is sort of, that fascinated me. It's like, I can tell that turtle what to do and it will just do it, and we can do it as many times as I want.
It's so funny
like,
now.
What is the thing that makes the turtle do the turtley things? And then like, oh, it's coding. And then I started looking for books, and it's like, oh, it's this whole universe, and I can make games. And it's like, I'm going to make my own game. And yeah.
It's so funny now. You look at what we can do now with computers. We're immersed in movies and we're murdering people. And it's mind-blowing where we are. Like, I'm thinking of doing a show, one of my rants this week about looking back. Do you think, I'll ask you this while you're here. Do you think as an artist or a creative type in whatever field, music or coding, you would have been different? You would have made different things if you had the technology now that we had then? Or do you think, we needed to go through that stage to get to this?
I think people are, it's a hard time now for people starting, I think, because the bar is so high.
Yeah.
It's like when I started, if you get it to print a line and to reply to you, you're like, yeah, I did something new. Now it's like, before you have something that even anyone would give the light a day, you basically gotta like know all the things. You gotta know about like GPUs, about making sound, about making it performant, platform independence, and that's only just getting something running. But then even further, like just like with music, how do you distribute it? How do you get it signed and certified? How do you like do updates? How do you do customer support? How do you price it so that you don't price yourself out of the market? Like it's like so many things that the bar is so high. That like if I look at my kids, and that is sort of one of the things I see with them, they already get discouraged before getting started. It's like how can I do this and get started with it while the minimum is already way more than I can even wrap my brain around? So yeah, I think that if I would have gotten started now, I would probably have been in a similar position. I might not have started coding. I probably would just have done music and martial arts.
We'll get to martial arts. I know it's interesting when I was going through on the show everything that you do. I got to the end and was like, and kung fu. It was just
Yeah,
like, everyone's just like, yeah, and kung fu. It's the greatest. Do you remember the music that your family played? Because you grew up in Belgium, so was it
yeah.
different than what we would have had in the West? The music your family played that you grew up listening to?
My dad was a very cultivated person. So he kind of like he got me into weights. He got me into like a lot of different genres that wouldn't be considered mainstream music. My mom was more conservative, but interestingly, now having moved to the US and married someone that grew up here, there is quite a bit of differences where like my wife, she's like, yeah, you must know this song. It's like, I've absolutely never heard of it. There's no idea what you're talking about. She's like, but this was the most popular song for my whole like teenage years. And it's like, I don't even know the band. And then I'm like, but this song, I'm sure you know that song. And she's like, but that was just like a tiny little thing that no one paid attention to. And that made it a big hit in Belgium.
Yeah,
Like
right.
everyone was talking about it. So yeah, it's pretty interesting. Yeah.
Were there any?
And then a lot of music also, just like in any culture. For a while, and that's like a little bit later when I was in my early adult years, I had this very interesting band in so Brussels has a very old sort of hidden area that it's become touristy now, but it wasn't that touristy. It was more like secondhand market, and people in the know would be there. And there was this little restaurant that a friend of my dad's ran. And one of the things they did there, they had, I think it's monthly meetings of the Brussels Dialect Academy, like preserving the Brussels dialect. And then they would notate it and sort of like figure out what the right way of writing it is. And then at one point, we decided, like, what if we do a live show where we translate Georges Brassens and Jacques Brel, which are famous chansonniers, like famous singers in Belgium and France. What if they sing in French, like what if we translate those lyrics into the Brussels dialect and then make an acoustic show out of that? And that was so much fun. Like we just sitting on a tiny stage and people, like, I think I was the most formally trained musician. Everyone was just like being really passionate about the Brussels dialect and doing the best they could. And I was just sitting there with my Tascam mini discs, like 6-track, recording it all and mixing it while playing the guitar. And it's like, yeah, this is pretty cool. Yeah.
Let's play a track. I'm going to play this track here, which features you playing an instrument, which we'll talk about after this. This is called the Electrolin. Do you want to tell us about this piece that I'm going to play?
Yeah, it's just like a lot of the things that musically come up. I was experimenting with LinnStrument. LinnStrument is like an instrument that I've worked on with Roger Linn, and I wanted to experiment with Logic's new drummer. I think like Logic just brought out this drummer track that would automatically generate based on style, and then you could, well, you know what it is like now, they can sort of say what the density is and the different like pieces of the drum set and where the accents have to lie and all of that. And it's like I wonder if I can create a track where I play like very electronic sounds on top of a structure that I've first set up in Logic Drummer, and then I play on top of that. And that's this track.
All right, let's play it now. Folks, you'll love this. Check out this instrument. This is wonderful. We'll be back here shortly, and we'll say hello to you all in the chat. Enjoy. Let's do it. The chat's loving it. It's damn cool. Someone has said in there, it looks like somebody playing Candy Crush, making music. Look at that thing. Man, I want one of those. Who else wants one of those? Yeah?
Yeah, it is. Like I saw some of the questions pop up. It is a controller. It's also a step sequencer. So it is an MPE controller that allows you to play 3 dimensions of, like GeoShred, like what people were saying, for each finger, but it's tactile. So one of the cool things is that you don't have a piece of glass, but you have little ridges here in between that give you tactile feedback of where you are. And yeah, it's like Candy Crush, but you can change all of this. This is a cool thing. Like you can like set up what the lights are, and then like, oh, this is actually those that I want. So you can give yourself the references that you would like when you're playing it. And it's got a bunch of like, because we can. Let's see. I had a lot of fun coding this. Like we have all these different animations. So as you play it, it can sort of like, this is Starr from Jade Starr. It's like stars coming out of your touch.
That's wicked.
And it goes faster if your velocity increases. If you have low velocity, then they get slower. We got a whole bunch of fun stuff in there like that. But then also, so you've got 2 separate splits you can use. And one of the splits can be a polyphonic step sequencer and can with 3 dimensions of expression again for each note in the step and up to 4 notes in a step. But that can play in the background while you're playing over it. So it's sort of like a one-man band thing also. And you can also set up one of the splits as 8 faders that would be controlling CC messages and controlling things on your synthesizers. And it's got a few very smart MIDI modes, like a 1-channel MIDI mode that is really trying to get the most out of the pre-MPE era. And then like a Roper channel that's more like guitar, MIDI, like messaging format, and then there's an MPE format. But yeah, that's been, and it's fully open, like the code is fully open source also, which is what I'm really passionate about. So all the firmware is available on GitHub. People have been contributing or getting inspired by it. I've given a few talks about it, educated people on how to customize their instruments, because that is so one of the things I was talking to Roger Lynn about. It's sort of one of things that saddens me about electronic instruments. Like if I take any of these guitars here, if I want to customize the hell out of it, I can. If I want to have someone change anything to it, I can, because it's understandable, it's physics, it's materials that are like available anywhere. You might fuck it up, it's your problem, but you can change it or you can improve it. Now, with electronic instruments, the majority don't have that. You buy the thing, and then that's the thing. And now, like, okay, well, I need something different. Guess I'm going to buy another thing. So that was one of the driving forces behind LinnStrument's firmware when Roger and I started on this. And he didn't have that much open source experience, but I've been doing open source ever since Linux was distributed on 20 CDs. And I feel like we should open source this and make this something that people can do with whatever they want, so that they can own their instruments and they can make it what they want it to be. And I'm really happy that we did that.
I think it's a really good thing, because I mean, we are in a world where continuously we're having things taken away from us. Like, you know, you buy a piece of equipment that you can't open, you can't change the battery, you can't do all this. You've got to take it to a specific. Sorry, Apple, I'm talking about you guys. But you know, and you know, MacBooks used to be able to change the hardware and put in a new hard drive. And no, you buy something, you should be able to do with whatever you want with it. And so, how does it, like, we'll show it here. Here's the instrument. So it's called the LinnStrument, folks. Roger Lynn, so name after Roger Lynn, obviously. This is like, to me, it seems like this is an invention. You know, this is something completely new. How does it feel to be an inventor?
It's a good question, because it's only recently that it all of a sudden occurred to me. Like when I was a kid, I remember being a professor from the cartoons, like a professor that invents things. And I'm going to invent a rocket that goes to the moon. And I was like building my rocket and going to the moon, and it was all in my head. Fast forward like 35 years, and I think a couple of months, all of a sudden it dawned on me. It's like, holy shit, I've become a professor. I'm building like these weird things, and a lot of them are just whatever. Some of them are a success, some of them are like fizzle out, some of them are just a statement. But I've created a bunch of random things without really planning for it, and it feels good. It feels like I've improved a few people's lives, which is what I care about.
Yeah, you said that at the beginning, and I agree 100%. If you can change one person's day, the rest
Yeah.
doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. I think it's fantastic. I love seeing new things happen, and we have things like these days, like GoFundMe's and people trying to invent things all the time. The hit rate on GoFundMe is pretty low, but when something does come, I mean, I've got involved in probably about Kickstarters. Kickstarters. I think I've got involved in probably about 10 Kickstarters. And out of the 4 that I received, that's a pretty low rate. 1 was okay. The rest were...
Let me check on mine. I backed 83 Kickstarters.
Holy shit.
Interestingly, I'd say I received about 75 of them.
Wow.
And more than half of them are actually pretty amazing. It's like this synth here's motor synth that was a Kickstarter, right? They delivered. Game Changer Audio. I know they struggled really hard to get that thing out, and then they made to make 2 recently. They got it out there. There's a few people that really go the extra mile, more than you'd expect.
I think it's more. I think that where the rorts happen on things like that are with games. That's where games are a really big problem. I think I remember I got a keychain thing which you could slot your iPhone into. And you could have it on your desk. Before they were putting stands out or anything, and it was just on your keychain. You could just and it was the best Kickstarter I ever invested in. It is what it is. So school. Like, when you were at school, did you have music lessons? Was that a thing at school in Belgium? And did you learn the recorder?
Learned the recorder. I didn't like the recorder. We had after-school music lessons. I did after-school classical nylon string guitar, which was basically the music academy coming after school, giving you guitar lessons.
Right.
But then when I was like, high school in Belgium is not high school here. It's like, I still struggle with the years. But from the age 12 to 18, that's like high school in Belgium. Yep. I sort of changed tracks in the education I was following, where the original track that I was on was gonna have the recorder a year later, and then I switched to another track and they had the recorder a year before. I'm like, yes, I skipped the recorder. I was so happy about that. It did not inform my decision, but I was like, that's a cool bonus.
The recorder, the thing that makes everybody's neighbors happy when you're young. Not as much as violin.
The recorder is a fine instrument. It's just that there's a lot of teachers I've seen, not all of them. There's a lot of awesome and passionate teachers out there, but there's a lot of teachers I've seen that don't approach it from a musical point of view, but more from a curriculum point of view. And it's like, you've got to play this particular song. And then it sort of tends to take the soul out of it. And you as a kid, you don't feel what makes the music special. It almost becomes like math. And it's like,
Let's say hello to folks here in the chat, because there's many here. We have 37 people, so thank you all for turning out today. If you want me to call your name, type something, make it easy for me. We've got Andy, Cal, we've got Mr. Smith, Joe Glenn, Semtex Cow, Independent Manny United, we've got Thomas Christ, Cold Acre, Many Vibes, Preston Smith is here as well. Let's see, Gregory O'Sullivan is here. I saw Ed B. Medal. I saw Brad. I saw Alila roll up. The real Justine Casprig. There's Chad Freeman. Chris Lane Sr., hello to you. Pete Johns was here earlier. I'm trying to scroll up and find some more names. So just Moby Pixel is here. What's going on, my friend? He was on the show recently as well. Rockin' Pneumonia. That's a full-on name, that one. I wouldn't be rocking if I had pneumonia. Geert as well. Independent Manny, I think I said you already. I can't remember. Midnight Bandit, hello. Axioms here as well. A lot of you are here. So thank you very much for hanging out here today. First band. Did you play in a band? Have you done live gigging?
Oh yeah. First band was probably in high school. Yeah, it was cringy. But we had a lot of fun, like me and two mates. Like we're just friends, and I was kind of serious about music, and they were just like, "We'll play music with you." And we just had fun together, and most of it sounded like shit, but it was fun. And then we did a few like gigs at the school and kind of embarrassed ourselves. And then I did a lot of solo stuff. Like I've always sort of been gravitating to solo singer-songwriter things. And that's been going on since the beginning. Before I had that band with my friends, I was like, "Oh, I wrote this song. You want to listen to it?" And like got this like 12-year-old boy just like trying to sing in English and knew like three chords, putting myself out there, almost getting booed off of stage because kids can be mean. But I mean, I just kept with it. And then my previous partner and I, we were together for 17 years, and we had a band that toured quite a bit in Belgium. We were pretty serious about it. We won a few contests, released one album, then did another album that was almost finished, and then the relationship was over. We both knew that we like had to go into different directions, and sort of the band was kind of a casualty in that. But that was, I'm still really proud of everything we created there, and the amazing shows we've had. Yeah.
So you sent me some music from an artist called Flight Case.
That's the band.
That's the band from back then.
Yeah.
And there's a link in the description, everybody, to the Bandcamp if you want to go and check it out. We're going to play a song. I'm going to play a song from it now because we've got 6 songs. We've got 3 per hour. So we'll play this and we'll come back. Do you want to tell us about this song? So this is Same Place Again that you've sent me.
Yeah. Is it the Bandcamp version?
It's the YouTube video.
It's the YouTube, the LinnStrument version?
No. So it's the band.
Okay, it's with the
band.
vocal?
Yep.
Yeah. The Same Place Again it's probably one of the songs I'm most proud of. I think it's the prettiest composition I've written. It was really hard. It's one of those songs where you get the beginning and then you get stuck in that loop you never get out of, where you're like, oh, those are a few really cool bars, and then you have, before you know it, 3 months of the same bars, and you just can't get out of it.
Yeah.
And managed to escape that, and I was really, really passionate about playing it with the band. And it's not an easy song to play with drums and bass because it's pretty slow. And number of times a drummer, his name is Eric, he's still a really good friend. He's an amazing person, like such an authentic, genuine human being, very talented. Doesn't take himself seriously at all, but he's just overflowing with talent. A number of times that he said, like, well, you guys just do a duo version of this. Like, I don't think drums will work. And it's like, I want this song to be a band song. Man, so many rehearsals before we got the drums down and then got the bass down. And also the recording that you're gonna play is one of the recordings that I'm proudest of that I did. Like I did all the miking, I did all the recording, the mixing, the mastering, the whole thing. And I think it turned out pretty well. So yeah.
Awesome. Let's hear it, guys. This is Flight Case, Same Place Again. We'll be back shortly.
same place again. I want you to stay till the end. I've never lost touch with minds of my own. I want you to stay till I go, and I will be rich one day in my life. I want you to stay with me till the end of my life. 'Cause I want to go to the same place again. I've never lost touch with minds of my own. I've seen you across the fields that I've grown, and I will be rich one day in my life. I want you to stay with me till the end of my life. I've lost my way. I want to stay. I've lost my way. Please don't be scared.
Yeah, inside me, I've seen that you made my whole world shatter. I've known that you follow I want you to go to the same
Place again. I want you to stay till the end, and I will be rich one day in my life. I want you to stay with me till the end of my life. 'Cause I want to go to the same place again.
Beautiful. Wow. That was really nice. Really nice.
Yeah, for how to app on iOS, this was the piano and the strings were played on LinnStrument on that song. So the device you saw before. Now Piano Tech is out on iOS, since the piano is actually piano.
Yeah.
And the strings are Omnisphere, which is not out on iOS. But then the analog synth you're hearing in the background is actually the Model 15 app.
An instrument that we are going to be talking about very soon. So we're at our second half, folks, so we're going to be talking about MIDI and we're going to be talking about Moog during this and a little bit of Kung Fu. So stick with us. We're going to do a quick DistroKid read because today's show is sponsored by DistroKid. We're going to do something a little bit interesting with this today. So if you are a DistroKid, let me just flick over to the right screen. If you are a DistroKid member, which you can do so by doing it, signing up using my code, distrokid.com/VIP Jade Starr, and you'll save 7% off your first year. It's $23 a year. You get to release your own music. Plus, you get this added new thing called DistroPick. And we're in the middle of Songtember at the moment where everybody's making their music. We do this challenge each year, create a song, write, record, release it in a month, wherever you want to release it. It doesn't have to be through streaming services. But this little service allows you to make an album cover just by typing in a prompt. Yes, AI. So you get an AI generator as well as your distribution. And I'm going to put in a prompt here. We're going to put in a Moog Model D on fire. Let's see what it can do with this right now and get totally rock and roll. Can it generate an image of a Moog Model D on fire for my new album? So we're going to hit generate image, and you can change the styles of image as well. So you get a whole bunch of options like gothic and all this kind of stuff, cyberpunk. And I love live. Well, it didn't put it on fire, but it put little flames in it. That's pretty cool. At least it kind of knows what it is. It kind of knows what it is. It's a little bit messy. But that's AI. That's AI technology for you, isn't it? It's not perfect, but as you can see, people are just making amazing things with these prompts. And, you know, this is a really big saving for people who, if you've ever used something like Midjourney or the other things that are out, they cost a lot of money. They're a subscription every month. And you get this, if you didn't know, now you do, with your subscription to DistroKid. So not only are you releasing music, you can do this as well. And you can download this. You can change the style of image if you want. You can send it over here and let other people share it. You can take somebody else's artwork as well. You can click on somebody else's artwork because it's all here to be able to use. It is just another really cool bonus of being a DistroKid member, and we want to thank DistroKid for sponsoring the show. As always, I love you, DistroKid. Anyway, I'm sure I haven't been told off for doing that yet, that it's way too creepy, but I'm sure they'll tell me soon that that's way too creepy. Let's talk about MIDI.
MIDI.
So you are involved. From what I believe, you have been involved with MIDI for a while, and not just on the level of making MIDI, but you know a little bit about the MIDI standard and what's happening with MIDI, because it's been around for a long time. Is it changing? Is it evolving? Where are we going with MIDI? What is it? Help people out.
Okay. MIDI is awesome. MIDI 1.0 is like, you have to think about this. Usually in the industry, companies compete with each other and come up with their own protocol so that they can box people in. So what happened with MIDI 1.0 is kind of unique, that competing companies came together and created a standard that has persisted for decades and that allows competing products to interoperate. It's pretty incredible if you think about it. So when I started getting interested in expressive music making, so I was looking for like expressive electronic music making. I tried MIDI guitars, and I tried different MIDI guitars and all kinds of different guitar to MIDI translators, and nothing really worked the way I wanted it.
Yep.
And then the eigenharp came along. I don't know if you guys ever heard of that instrument. I don't know, Jade, if you can pull it up. Or
I'm about to. Yep.
I'll pick one up here. In the meantime,
I
this
knew
is
you'd
the
have one.
that they did release. It's the Eigenharp Alpha.
Wow.
It's like a bassoon kind of thing, but every key moves in 3 axes: pressure, up, down, left, right, and they're all registering. If you blow on these keys, they will register the wind going over it, or you can smash it, and it's got that dynamic range. So they were way ahead of their time. No one even could wrap their head around what they were doing. And kind of invested too much too soon. Ran out of steam. But I was really interested in that instrument. And They have a small version also. I think I sent you a video of a piece of music that I composed on that, the Eigenharp Pico. And I got really sucked in by the possibilities of expressive electronic music. And one of the things that set the Eigenharp apart was it is a controller, but they came up with their own high-speed serial protocol to the computer, and then had their own host running on the computer that could interpret high-resolution, full bandwidth messages, and then translate that into samples, there was like a modular synth built into that, and it could also drive VSTs, like plug-in instruments and effects. And that is where things broke down, because everyone wanted to play their favorite plugin, but there was not really a protocol, or there was not really a convention about how to convey what the 3 dimensions of control for a single note would be in MIDI. There were a few people dabbling around with things like the Continuum, from like Haken Continuum had been doing their thing, and then Wolfgang Palm had some things out there, and there wasn't really like a document that says, hey, if we all do this, then we can talk together, a little bit like MIDI 1.0. And at that time, like, so Animal like just came on the scene back at that time also. Man, that was a wild time. And I remember like sending emails to all these. This was before I was working at Moog. I had another career, and then I applied at Eigenharp, Eigenlabs. I ended up working there for a while, and then that didn't go that well. They had to like let people go, and I went back to my previous career. Just like I loved that career, and still love all about it. But it was like writing emails to Uhe and writing emails to everyone that I didn't know back then. It's like, hey, you guys got to look at voice per channel MIDI and get this to work so that we can use these weird controllers. And it was like, you're crazy, dude. Like, no one's going to use this. Like, look at the weird bassoon, strange, like, contraption thing. And I just never gave up. And then I got in touch with Roger Lynn. Like, he was trying to get LinnStrument off the ground. He wanted some partners to show electronic, like expressive instruments across the world. So we did like a little tour of like, hey, look at the new electronic instruments. And then Roger and I got talking. He's like, I need someone to actually make a product out of this together with me, because I have this prototype, but it's only doing prototypey things. And then one NAMM, and a lot of things happened at NAMM. Like Stevie Wonder played this Harpeggi, but also one night at NAMM after the show, Rolly they were starting with their keyboards, and for better or for worse, they sort of tried to appropriate what has become MPE, but they set up this evening with prominent figures in the music industry, people that had worked and were still working and are still working on expressive electronic instruments, to start a discussion about, hey, what if we write a spec? And it went as you would expect. Everyone was just saying the things that they wanted, and not that much consensus, which is what usually happens because everyone has their own idea, and which is why MIDI 1.0 is still so incredible.
Yep. It's endured.
And I was standing there. I happened to be invited. And at one point, I just cut them off. And I'm like, guys, are you okay with me going back to my hotel and writing a draft of a spec, and then we have something to work from? Like, instead of just talking about this, maybe we should actually work on it. And that's what happened. I went back to the hotel, wrote the first draft of the MPE spec, then we created a MIDI working group, expert group, spent years listening to everyone's ideas and opinions, and eventually almost went back exactly to where we started. But that was necessary because now we had buy-in, and we had people going through the process and seeing the value of more simplified protocols, like specific messages that have predefined so that things know what they should talk to. And that became MPE. And then now MIDI is going hardcore to MIDI 2.0, which is big. It intimidates me. I'm not sure how easy it's going to be for the industry to adopt it, but it's worth it. Like the same concepts of MIDI 1.0 are preserved. It's higher resolution, higher bandwidth. But one of the things that I'm really passionate about is it allows MIDI devices to have a nature that they convey and other devices to understand that they have that nature and say, okay, yeah, I know who you are. You're that type of device. I can talk to you. As opposed to what MIDI now is, like, you have to set up all these mappings and you have to like figure out how to make everything talk together. And there's still a lot of configuration and manual jiggling around. So what is called the MIDI CI profiles, so the profiles people can, instruments can advertise, I think that is going to be the real gateway into MIDI 2.0, because it is a big part of the way of making MIDI and electronic music plug and play, where you plug a controller into your computer and the DAW will see that controller and say, hey, which profiles do you have? And the controller will say, I have these profiles. Which ones can you use? And the DAW will say, oh, I can use that one. Shall we work on that one? And like, okay, now we know how to communicate. And that's it. They will communicate because they've agreed upon the modalities and the type of messages that are being sent. So today is a momentous day, actually. The MPE working group finalized the MPE profile for MIDI 2, which is essentially the same MPE that's been around. There's some improvements and additions, but the big thing is that there's a profile. There's going to be a profile where devices can now say, hey, I'm an MPE device. Are you a synthesizer that can talk MPE? And then the synthesizer said, yes. And these are the channels that I can use. And the device is, cool, I can use those channels from the ones that you have available. Let's talk over those channels. And these are the type of messages that I'm going to send. Cool, let's use those messages. So hopefully in a couple of months, years, we will have plug your MPE device in a synth and it will just do the thing. Wow.
It's quite mind-blowing to know that is coming. It is very exciting times. I mean, I know nothing about it, MIDI. I grew up playing death metal, and I knew that, there was MIDI on Atari, STs and all that kind of stuff, but MIDI to me that's electronic music. When you're young and you're in metalhead, electronic music's like, fuck that. But as you get older, you start to realize and grow, mature in your music. But it's only been since I started this show that I've used MIDI and keyboards and stuff. And now I'm more excited about MIDI than most other music. And I see all these MPE controllers and just where we're heading and people playing expressively and instruments that you blow into and just go, what the fuck? We are living in so far in the future. But MIDI 2 has been a long time coming, hasn't it? Really long time.
Initially, it was MIDI HD, which had an even higher barrier to entry. And then they sort of tore that down, kept the pieces that were really good, and then became really pragmatic about it. It's like, you can't just switch an industry over like overnight. Yeah. It's going to be a gradual process. So that is a big part of MIDI 2 is backwards compatibility with MIDI 1. It's not a separator line. It's a continuum. You can pick the pieces of MIDI 2 that you want. If you just want to use the profiles, that's fine. You can still use MIDI 1 protocol, like the messages that you've always been sending. Yeah. And then slowly start adopting different pieces. And thanks to like CI capability inquiry and the profiles, the devices can advertise and understand what the capabilities are and gradually sort of upgrade. It's like, okay, oh, now you're actually able to talk MIDI 2 protocol. Well, now I can send you these messages. But if you don't, that's fine. I will send you the old messages. Like, let's continue talking that way. So there's this gradual path towards, in a few decades, hopefully, the majority will have moved on. But it doesn't have to be a before and after like break.
Well, I know there's still a lot of, even in these communities we have here on YouTube, there's a lot of people who still have never used MIDI. And they're just, they're plugging along in their home studio with their guitars, and they may use not even MIDI drums. They're using like sampled stuff. So is this standard going to make it easier for those people who are scared shitless of MIDI?
I think once more and more profiles are going to start appearing and more profiles are going to be implemented by devices and software, you won't have to be as technical to use MIDI. So I think that will lower the barrier for entry for sure.
Ed B. Metal asks, can I hook MIDI 2.0 up to my brain and use it to learn transfer Bach's Brandenburg concertos?
Maybe that's a profile you have to work on, Ed.
Yeah, maybe ask Elon Musk. He might be able to help you out with that.
The Zelensky brain profile.
Why not? All right. So very exciting times coming for MIDI. I mean, for the longest time, it's been MIDI to me, since I've learned it, is on off. And, and I want to own an MPE instrument so much. I see there's one of my favorite artists here in Australia. Her name's Mystique, and she's got this Arturia keyboard that is full MPE, and I watch her play it and her finger just moving on the keys, and I'm like, oh my God, this is just so beautiful, the things you can do with it. It certainly is. MPE is just an amazing standard as well. So let's play, because we talked about the Ergenhardt Pico. Let's play this clip of you playing it so people can see exactly what this thing sounds like.
So this was my entry for, like, I wasn't working there yet, but I was really passionate about the Eigenharp, so I bought the Pico and was like, I'm gonna buy this for my girlfriend, which obviously was a lie. And it's like, look, baby, I don't care. So I was like, how far can I push this thing? And there was a competition to win an Eigenharp Alpha, and this was one of my entries for the competition, and had to be played live, had to be an original composition, and had to all be played on the Eigenharp. And yeah, I wondered if I could play a classical piece. And so that's this piece, Winter Movement.
You ready, folks? This is amazing. Let's do it. We'll be back here shortly. Enjoy. I don't know how you only got runner-up for that. That was fucking
I mean,
insane.
the winner was pretty epic. Like, she's an amazing vocalist, Kayla. Yeah.
That one of the comments Preston put up there was like, I think it said, looks at guitar in the corner of the room. Why can't you do that? Man, we live in the future. That was just incredible. That gives me so much hope that one day I could do something like that. It just incredible performance, incredible instrument. Who knew you could blow into something and just create? It's mind blowing. Every day I wake up, Geert, and just go, fuck, we live in the future. I'm so lucky with just the things that we can have around us to create is such a blessing. And you are an amazing performer, and it's just mind blowing. Which brings me to how did you get involved with this amazing historical company by the name of Moog? Now, for those of you who don't know who Moog are, slap yourself in the face right now, because you've at least heard 2,000 to 10,000 songs in your lifetime or more that feature a Moog in the so what? How did you get there? When? How do you apply for a job? How do you get to work at Moog?
It's a cool story. I was doing the electronic expressive music stuff with the Eigenharp, and then Animo came out. I was like, I gotta hook up Animo to the Eigenharp, and that's where like, there's no voice per channel MIDI, aka MPE. So I start sending them emails, and we start talking, and I was going to trade shows, and then started talking at trade shows. And I have this open source mindset and history, and I've been going in and out of code bases for so long because I love code. I love seeing how people write code. I love writing code. I love reworking code, learning from code, everything related to code. And I had this open source mindset stepping up to the people at Moog saying, look, I'll sign whatever you want. Like, Animal is such an incredible instrument. I'll sign whatever you want and I'll do everything for free. Just let me put voice per channel MIDI in there. Like, just let me do it and you can have it. I'll figure it out. I'm sure I can make it work and it will be great. And they were like, who's this crazy guy? Walking up to us at trade show after trade show. It's like, initially they were really looking at me as like, who's this crazy guy? And then as time went on, they started to realize that that could be interesting because they didn't really have a software department. They did Animoog, but didn't have a software team to really carry it forward. They had a couple of people that worked on it. And they saw the need to start building out a software team. And then there was that crazy guy that seemed to maybe know what he was talking about. And then I remember, like, we were at Music Messe, and like Cyril Lance, which was the chief engineer there, and Michael Adams, the president, we on a tiny white little coffee table, like sort of on the edge of it, I signed like the agreement that like I would contract for them to do some work on Animoog. And that went really fast. Like, in a matter of months, it was clear that there was way more work than just part-time. And I basically like took on like the software application realm of Moog, built the apps, built out a team. We've got an incredible team and I'm so proud of right now. Without them, we wouldn't have been able to do like the incredible like Animoog Z, Mooger Foogers, and it's just getting started, folks. Like, the stuff that we've got lined up is just it's so awesome.
I mean, it's a big responsibility too, it feels like, because for those who don't know the history of the Moog Model D and the 15 and these things they're individually made. They're handmade, each one, you know. This isn't like a production line just churning these things out. There's so much love that has gone on throughout the history of Moog. So to be able to translate that from this piece of circuitry into software, it's a lot of responsibility.
It goes back to like the energy, like doing things with passion and really caring about having heart and soul in your work. And everyone is involved at Moog. Like, even though at one point I was the only one doing a lot of the coding, but like, that's just a piece of it. It's like people teaching me how the modulars work and walking me through the calibration of the reference model D, and then explaining to me why things need to be the way they are and what sets it apart, and then sitting together and walking through everything, and then all the artists that come through and try it out and give feedback. And like, there's so much input that happens from everyone at the company, and even friends of the company, and artists that have been around and made this journey with us for so long. That's the only way that makes it possible. And it also relieves that pressure, like you were talking about. It's a huge responsibility, but also it was not my responsibility. It was everyone's responsibility. So you can be sure that none of these apps would have gone out without like the majority of people at Moog being 100% on board with what is the output. Some things had to be reworked because misunderstood stuff, or it was not good enough, or like the weeks that I've spent, like Model 15 was such a learning experience for me, where they sent the reference Model 15 to my home in Belgium, and basically had the computer and the Model 15 and then the iPad that right next to it. And I would be closing my eyes for like weeks on end, just like sliding a knob up and down, and then turning the same knob on the modular, and just trying to imagine the essence of the changes. Like, obviously, it's not the same. Like, you don't have the same tactile feel, but you have like a rate of change, you have a feedback, you have like a response and an immediacy, and like grit and analog gooiness that does talk to your soul. And trying to get into that mindset and sort of like, okay, this is what it does in the instrument. Like, is this conveying what is necessary on the app? And I think we did a pretty good job, but it wouldn't have been possible with everyone else's help.
You did. Well, I don't know. I've never owned one. I'm probably never will, but I do. I do on my iPad, and here it is. And like, just there's a lot of conjecture around, you know, about skeuomorphism and minimalism with iOS. Even Apple, their iOS has gone through. It began very skeuomorphic, where everything like looked like a letter, the notes looked like a notepad, and then they went to a very, you know, bland, flat-looking iOS. I don't think you could release, like looking at this here, I don't think you could release a Moog app like the Model D or Model 15 on iOS without using skeuomorphism. It would look, you need it to look like that. My question is, the amount of detail in just the leads, like when you open this up and move, did this take a long time to do?
You have no idea, Jade. You have absolutely no idea. So Model 15 is so, we couldn't do real-time rendering, so it had to be pre-rendered. And the texture set of every knob, every module is unique. You can zoom in on it, and you can see the lines on the edges and the little details and imperfections. Every module is unique. What we wanted was to be able to immediately zoom in and out without lag from all the way to just like making a knob really big to seeing the whole modular when you like hold the iPad in portrait mode. You can see the whole modular. So all of this had to be super smooth, without any lag, without intervening with the sound. So we started evaluating a whole bunch of technologies. We tried to use Apple's libraries and frameworks. We ended up having to write our own like UI technology to do that. So we basically, Model 15 is basically a game. So we use all the same technologies that you put in like high performance games, so that all of the rendering can be done on the GPU and it's not running on the CPU, so that the CPU can do audio. So going back to the topic of skeuomorphism, here's like I've heard all the arguments, like, and I've had this discussion many times. There's one thing you can't take away from skeuomorphism, is that in one glance it tells you what it is.
Yeah.
Someone sees a skeuomorphic knob, they know it is a knob. Someone sees a skeuomorphic cable, they know it is a cable. They see a switch, they know it is a switch. If you start using any types of other shapes or arrangements or whatnot, now there is a cognitive dissonance. Now you're like, first you have to learn what the thing is, and then you can use the thing. So I think that's good for certain things. I'm not sure it is appropriate for the instruments that we're making, because what we want to focus on is giving you a great experience and allowing you to explore music and sound without having to learn the visual vocabulary.
Yeah.
So that is one area that where skeuomorphism is just, there's nothing as powerful as it, because you know what the object does in real life, so you know what it will do on the screen.
Yeah, and I understand why iOS changed. It makes sense as a language to simplify things for. In the beginning, it made sense to be skeuomorphic because you want this is a new technology that came the fuck out of nowhere, and people need to wrap their heads around. They're gone from flip phones to the iPhone. That was a big jump. But then they changed it flat, and it made sense. But again, like if this had to come out, and it looked like, and I'm not slagging, it came out and looked like a Blease app, say it wouldn't make sense, you know. But Blease have their own look that is absolutely unique to themselves, which is amazing too.
So the cables,
yes,
those by themselves took 2 people 6 months of work, me and the contractor.
Fuck.
The real challenge is that they need to look 3D, but you don't want 3D cables because they're messy and they're always in the way.
Yeah.
And they obscure everything and they get like really annoying. So until which level do you keep the realism, and until which level do you create affordances that allow people to not worry about cables? So if you've used a real modular, cables can be kind of cumbersome. Definitely these type of big cables where if you stand in front of a big Model 15 modular, you have them all like hanging around your neck because they're just big and wide, and then you start patching them up and they just all get tangled, and you spend half your time untangling them. So how can you create cables that still look like there's depth that go in front and behind each other, without creating tangling, without having that aspect of the cables into it, which took so much research and experimentation. But we finally found something that I'm really happy with.
The other thing that I think is fantastic, because modular, like even for me, modular is very scary. Like there's a bunch of modular apps I want to review, but I haven't because it's overwhelming. But the one thing that's really cool about this, if you grab a cable, you'll notice the places where you can put that cable light up for you, letting you know these are where you can go. A lot of apps don't do this, especially hardware doesn't do that. And so you could be plugging things in and not knowing what you're doing and get no sound whatsoever. So it really walks you through the process and helps you understand. So if you do move to another app that has this kind of look, you may be a lot better. So it's very educational.
Could you open up the presets? Model
Yep.
15? Because this is something that I've noticed that not many people know about.
Sure.
Let me see. So if you go to the presets,
I don't
and
have
then you
everything
scroll
either, so I don't have all the in-app purchases.
in the banks, if you scroll the banks down,
Yep.
you see tutorial,
Oh, wow.
and then pick any of these, and it's a guided walkthrough of how to do modular synthesis. So if you start, it walks you through it and it highlights the regions and it tells you what to do in order to achieve specific parts of modular synthesis. So it's like a storyboard engine that is built into Model 15, and we've built out a little curriculum that's in there that will teach you how to use the modular.
Wow.
And it's highlighting the sections, and then it will like indicate which ones to turn and where to go to. And then if you like, you see the highlight there at the bottom, if you have to drag to an area that's off screen, it will give you that indicator on the edge. So I've met a few people that learned Model 15 with the app and then came to Moog Fest when we were still having Moog Fest, stood in front of the real one and were just patching it up as they've done it their whole lives. Because they learn it all on the app.
Yeah. I didn't even know that was there.
Yeah, a lot of people don't.
Damn, that is wicked. Well, I know what I'm doing for the weekend. That's wicked. I'm blown away. I'm blown away. Like I am with most of this. I remember now these apps have been around a while on iOS, haven't they? Like they were some of the first ones.
Yeah, Moog is the iPad one. It's now 12 years, 13 years old.
Yep.
Then Model 15, was it 8, 9 years?
I'm just
we did Model.
Just bringing it up because you can always tell through the change log.
Yeah, Model 15 is like an epic history. And still more changes coming. That's the struggle doing things on iOS. You always adapt to the new things that have been coming out and the new changes on hardware in order to keep things running.
How is your experience with dealing with Apple? And because, they're very secretive and they don't let you know what's going on. I guess maybe you're in a better position at Moog than a small developer, maybe just in being able to have the devices to test the stuff. No, but you don't get any heads up.
Everyone else, we don't get early devices. We have to work with the simulator that sometimes doesn't work. And sometimes it's really frustrating because it's the same. And that is where I really urge people to not be mean. Just whatever you do, be kind.
Yeah.
It's not hard. It's there's a lot of things that are out of our control. Like Apple will release a new iPad with a new screen size, and we can't test it ahead of time. And sometimes we can't even get it in the simulator working right. And then we can't afford to buy every single iPad and all the variations and permutations and then maintain them, update them. And then you get into this other kind of nightmare situation where once you upgrade an iPad, you can't downgrade. So how can we support older versions? We can't.
Yeah.
There's no way to test on older versions unless for each version we buy a whole new suite of devices, which is completely impossible.
Yep.
Because people think Moog is a giant organization. We're not. We're a boutique shop that has worked really hard. We're small. We all fit in a building here in Asheville, and we built the stuff there. And it's a couple of engineers there, a couple of engineers here, and then it's a small marketing team. And we're a small company, so even though there's a large, incredible history, we're not Apple by any means. So yeah, that's our building.
It puts things in perspective. I think when you see the building, it kind of reminds me of, when you have to go to some repair place and it's in the middle of some industrial place, and it's not a giant. And like I said earlier, these things are handmade. I think that Am I right in saying this? They're still handmade, aren't they? The ones that are, each
So
individual one.
the whole bottom floor, like the building is split in 2 levels. The whole bottom floor is the production floor.
Yeah.
And that is, I don't know how many lines there are now. I don't want to speak, but it's filled with production lines for each product category. And then we rotate based on demands, and they're all built, calibrated, with a lot of love and care. And then upstairs, we have a pretty significant service department where we actually pick up the phone. Imagine that.
Yeah.
People call us with a question about an app, and they will have someone to talk to. But the same for synthesizers. You can call us up, and we will pick up the phone. And the service department is amazing in that. And they also repair people's instruments or do custom modifications. Like, that's the boutique aspect of it. And then we have a small section that's the engineers and marketing and graphical people and our like very creative writers and then obviously like our staff and administrators, accountants, like everything to keep the company running. But it's not that many people. It's very thinly spread. So we're in the same boat where we don't have privileged access to things on iOS. And we're often scrambling. We're like, really sorry that you bought this new iPad that came out yesterday and you got it today. And that the app that we made and we're not able to test because we didn't even receive the device. We're very sorry that there is a graphical glitch. We'll get it fixed, but we have to get a device first.
Yeah, give us a few weeks. Just relax. You know, the world's not going to change.
Yes,
but people want it now, don't they? Yeah. Everyone wants everything now. Moby Pixel's got a question for you.
Problem in the software world, and I get it. I do the same thing, but just giving an example. When Moog was launched, it was sold for $1.
Right.
$1.
Yeah.
13 years ago. Right? I have still people writing in now. Can I get a rebate on the upgrade for Moog Z? Because I bought it for $1 13 years ago. Right?
Yeah.
It's not realistic. Like, it's not sustainable. Like, we all have to, like, it's the same thing for everyone. Like, living conditions have become more expensive. So yeah, we have to feed ourselves.
Moby Pixel asks, has it changed since the buyout?
There's changes. Yeah. Good and bad. I can't go into details. I've felt some really positive changes. I'm excited about the opportunities that it's given my team. I'm excited with some of the things that are now more in the realm of possibility because it's a bigger company. Like, when you make hardware instruments, if you're a bigger company, you can buy components for cheaper. Like, there's things like that. But yeah, I think it's a positive change. Like, I've seen a lot of positive fallout from it.
Now,
and there's absolutely no desire to change who we are. Even before the buyout happened, like, there was a bunch of conversations, and I explicitly asked about it. It's like, what about our culture? And like, it's something that they really care about. Like, we want to really be careful to not change the culture.
Yeah, culture is very important. Another company who I put very highly regarded as well as Moog is Rode Microphones. I've dealt with them a lot over the last year because I have a lot of their stuff that I've basically decked my whole studio out with all their stuff. And again, you can call them and they pick up the phone and speak to an engineer like that.
Yeah.
It's mind blowing. Somebody so big is still cultivating that energy, and it's geez, I just feel really good after getting off the phone with them. There's other companies that just don't give a shit, but you know, it could be a number of reasons. Now, we met through recently me doing a show on these babies right here, the Mooger Fooger effects pedals. Now, these pedals themselves, I've only got to touch one once in my life. And these things are like, I was blown away by how big these things are, you know. And look how big they are. They're giant. When they were released, they were really guitarists jumped on these. It wasn't synth people, it was synths. And then synth people jumped onto them. Are they're not still manufactured now, are they?
No, we stopped manufacturing.
So how long was the development to put these babies into place? Because you saw my review. I think these selection of apps are the best thing that's hit iOS this year, and just mind-blowing technology.
It's really hard to qualify that because similarly to the hardware Mooger Foogers, they were using components from the modular synthesizers.
Yep.
And hooking them up in different ways to achieve different sonic capabilities and possibilities and inspire in different ways. The software versions are very similar in that approach, in that we started from some of the Model 15 and the Minimoog Model D software components and used those as stepping stones to create the Mooger Foogers. Obviously, there's new things. The 109 never existed before. And like the phaser is not in the modulars, and don't have that type of bucket brigade delay. But still, like some of the fundamental pieces that make the software's DSP sound so good, that research has really helped and sort of catapulted the Mooger Foogers release. It's basically, it was half a year of work for my team of 5 people. It's incredible that we pulled that off.
One of the main things that blew me away about them, I mean, you know, I know when they came out, when we knew they were coming, we were going to get these things, you knew they were going to be good. Right, so there was no worry there. But I was blown away by the interconnectivity between, I think on the show that I did the demo of, I didn't even know you could like put them as an AUV3 in Logic, and they would, in another door running in the background, they would be able to send sounds there. I was fucking blown away. The whole CVs at the back, just technology that I never even thought of. And there it is. Why aren't more people doing this?
It's really hard.
Right.
we weren't sure we were going to be able to do that part. It's a lot of prototyping and trying various approaches out. I can't go into the technical details,
of course,
but it's pretty unique what we've accomplished there. I don't think anyone else is doing it. If you think about how far it can go, so each Mooger Fooger plugin can have 5 CV inputs, and we support up to 128 plugins, right?
Yeah.
That is 128 times 5. I'm a little bit too tired to do that math, but it's 40, something like that. I don't know.
It's a fucking lot. It's a fucking lot.
So, but at audio rate, like the modulations are CV doing it at audio rate. It's a difficult problem to solve. I'm very proud of my team to have been able to crack that nut. But for quite a while during the development, we were like, this is an optional, nice to have feature. We hope we can make it, but we're not sure it's going to work.
Every year there seems like something that comes out on iOS that the whole community just goes rabid for. There's always something every year. And this, I think, was that moment for this year. I know you couldn't turn your head and not see Mooger Foogers and people drooling. Just very exciting times. And, you know, talking about, you said before about people asking for updates when they spent $1 on these things. We're in a situation now where people want desktop quality stuff on their iPad. And finally, Apple have got to that position now with these iPads that they can do it. With the pricing of things, why do you think there still are this subsect of people who want to have desktop quality, but now that they have it, they cry about the price?
They're used to getting things for free or for almost nothing. Like there's a lot of entitlement out there. This is a shame. I get it, but it's not very constructive because it's not realistic.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to cover one more thing before we talk about Kung Fu, and then we'll get out of here and let you go. Because, folks, if you didn't know, Geert has been so genuine, kind today to come on here, and he's got the flu and sick as a dog. And I
pumped myself up right before.
Yeah, and I said to him before the show, look, we can do this another time, but he's an absolute soldier for coming on here. So absolute props, my friends in the chat. Please fill the chat right now with emojis of our guest today for putting in such a massive effort. You know, I would have had no problem doing this another time, but you're a champ. You released an app a little while ago by the name of MIDI Tape Recorder. Now, I haven't done a show on this because I held off. It's another one of those ones that came out during a time when there was a whole lot of things going on. And it's in my folder of things to do. And I was going to do it before the interview, but then I thought, you know what, this is a great chance to do this app next week after I've interviewed you about it. So what is the concept of this MIDI tape recorder? Because it went under the radar a little bit, and it's a fucking game changer.
It's me being frustrated at DAWs. So I changed it from being free to $10 because I also think that it's been free for a year now. I can't continue to put something out there that diminishes the value of apps. But it's also open source, so anyone that can build it or wants to build it can build it themselves or see how it's made. I made this right after Moog Z was released. So Moog Z has a very expressive keyboard that allows you to play MPE performances. Once again, I realized that there were no DAWs that were able to capture it without removing critical expressive data. So there's two aspects to that. First one is decimating the data stream, like reducing the amount of information and sort of thinning it out instead of having all the nuances and details, which is what makes things chaotic or expressive, like it's all the tiny things. And then there is timing. So Apple built in this really wonderful feature in AUV3 where MIDI messages can be, like, if they stay in the digital realm, like within the device, if not transferred out over a MIDI interface, they can have a sample accurate timestamp attached to it. MIDI 1.0 doesn't have timestamps. MIDI 2.0 does. You can get something like timestamps from computers when they receive MIDI, but they're never sample accurate and they're always sort of the best effort. So I was frustrated when we released Moog Z because I was playing on it, and except for recording audio, there was absolutely no way for me to record my MIDI performance and to have it sound exactly the same way. So I was like talking to Jonathan from AUM, talking to the people from AudioKit and Michael from Audio Bus and stuff. It's like, if you guys looked into this, and it's like, we need an example app in the community for like handling MIDI and audio units. And it's like, well, maybe I should just take a crack at this. And that's where I open source this. And what it does, it's a very opinionated concept, is MIDI is not editable in MIDI tape recorder. it's you record MIDI as if it is audio. If you want to change it, you re-record it. Like, that's it. It's just like a Tascam 4-track. You can't overdub on the same track. You will override it. Like you can't just magically overdub on something on a Tascam 4-track. This does the same thing, but for MIDI, but it preserves every single message that could possibly send out. And it gives you a visualization. It gives you an indication of where things might be going on. And then you can loop it, you can cut it, you can export it. The cool thing about it is that if you play it with GeoShred, with Animoog Z, with any of the expressive iPad apps, you will perfectly capture your performance. But then I've also seen people use it as sort of like an archiving tool or a way to record a drum loops or whatever, and then they can just play back over it and have this very low effort, minimalistic, what could be maybe seen as a DAW, but it's not really. It's like a 4-track MIDI recorder, like a MIDI tape recorder.
It's very clever tech, very ahead of everything else, and open source, and just I can't wait now to do a show on it, because I'm glad I waited too. Well, I didn't wait. It got lost in the shuffle, I have to admit. Sometimes you've only got 4 shows a week and there's so many apps. My brain explodes every week with learning all this stuff. Let's talk about Kung Fu.
Mm-hmm.
How long have you been doing Kung Fu for?
I've been doing martial arts for 41 years.
Wow.
I've been doing Kung Fu for 10 maybe. I'm sad that I can't find an external Kung Fu place here in Asheville. So I've transitioned more to the internal Kung Fu, which is just as hard. It's just that I don't get a workout, which is a shame. But I've been doing martial arts since I was a kid. The martial art I like the most is called Kalaripayattu, which is an Indian martial art. If you've seen like any kind of Bollywood movies where you see people dancing around in something that looks kind of martial arty, that's probably inspired by Kalaripayattu. And then that's also like I did judo, I did aikido, I did kendo. One of the things I really liked about Kalaripayattu is they have a lot of weapons, and I like training with weapons. It's like a musical instrument. It's like it's like riding a motorcycle. Like you have to trust the device and become one with the device. If you fight it, you will crash. Yeah. But you also have to be aware of the dangers and the downsides and be really honest with yourself. And with a weapon, like a martial arts weapon, it's the same thing. Like you can hit yourself in the face very easily. You can let go of it. You can lose it. But it's part of it. It's like a musical instrument. You have to learn how to play it. You have to practice, and then you sort of start transcending into this different state of being and finding your energy, finding a way to, and that's going back to one of the things you said, like that it looked to you as if what I'm doing is effortless. I think the biggest key to what I found for me, I'm not assuming that this would be good for anyone else, but is to have different activities that reinforce the chi in different ways, so that instead of getting depleted by something, you're always moving the chi around, and it's like a marathon of things that are always going on, as opposed to just doing one thing and then getting completely burned out and like, no, I gotta fill my cup again. Yeah. It's like all these flowing lines of energy that keep feeding into each other, and eventually you'll get to a spot with one of the things you're doing. And if you do this and get this, be like water. And if you do this with enough things, you end up with a flow and a rhythm of things you release that just is natural. They will be done when they're done, but they're all sort of lined up and then they're coming out.
Yeah. It's interesting when you put that in your little bio. It was the perfect exclamation point because it helped me even before I did this interview understand you so much more. You just come across from watching your videos and your music that you found the way to ride this, you know, and a lot of people struggle with this and end up like this. And we don't want to be in rough waters. We want to, you're always going to be in a flowing, moving, emotional state and the way things come at you and the way you handle tasks. But it's getting it to that not so bumpy ride. That is a really hard thing to do. So I don't know, Kung Fu, martial arts, it seems very close to a meditation.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Be very close. Yeah. So
yeah, it helped me a lot, like in so many aspects of my life.
Does it help with anger?
What?
Does it help with anger?
Oh yeah. Oh man. I used to be an angry child. I had a lot of anger in me. Definitely martial arts helped me through that. I think it's one of the most important things that my parents ever did to me is put me in a martial arts class. And to tell me to stick with it.
Yeah.
Not give up.
I think my friend Brad wrote here, I think it's really cool where I find it. Kung Fu, right on, makes cool ass programs and can kick your ass. Just awesome. So don't send a bad review for any Moog apps or you're gone, right? No, that's not it at all. All right. Well, I want to ask you.
Best martial artist never gets into a fight.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I want to ask you this final question I ask everyone who comes on the show, but with a little bit of a difference. Now, you've mentioned here that, you to get involved with Moog, you put yourself out there and worked for free. You obviously go to a lot of conferences and mingle with people. So what would you, if you were going to give advice to somebody who was wanting to start making music, maybe dive into a career that they've been scared of, when would you say is the best time to start? And just a little tidbit on something to do to help get ahead.
I think one of the things I said earlier is don't procrastinate releasing. You will only get better as you do more things. We all suck at the beginning. The more often you get through putting yourself out there, the more natural it becomes, the less stressful it is, the more genuine you are. But you need to get those training wheels on, and you need to go through the motions before your worry is not, how am I going to be perceived? Is my product going to be good? Are people even going to care? Oh my God, what if someone doesn't like it? Like that, like stifling fear. That's another one. I mean, it's a stupid one, but it does come back to a lot of that a lot. Like Dune's fear is a mind killer. It's true. Like fear fucks it all up. And in reality, there's very few things like creatively where you have a lot to lose. Like if you know that you are genuine, if you're just doing stuff that you care about and you are genuine, it really doesn't matter what someone else thinks about it. It's just their opinion. Everyone's got an opinion. Like, just do what you like, and then you'll get people that love it. You'll get people that are real assholes, and that's their problem. It's not your problem.
Absolutely.
It's their problem.
Yep.
Not assholes. And people are indifferent. That's all fine too. And then you've got these handful of people that you touched, and you've made a difference in their lives that without you putting yourself out there would not have been possible. So don't procrastinate releasing. Don't be afraid. We've all been through this. Everyone, like underneath every success is a huge iceberg of frustration and grind and failures and uncertainty. So just know that you're in good company.
Wise words. Folks, I want to thank you all for being here today and hanging out. I hope you really enjoyed this as much as I have. I mean, I've been so excited for this since only knowing you for a short time. It was you who reached out to me after reviewing the Mooger Foogers, and I'm so thankful that you did because
I've seen you like appear on the iOS stage and community, and I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
Just having been there since the iPad 1 days, you've stuck with it and you've really found your way and put yourself out there in a way that I think is very, like, it's incredible. And we need this.
Thank you so very much, folks. All the links to get it is in the description. You see how friendly he is. If you want to hit him up, say something nice. You know, don't be an asshole. We say it here all the time on the channel. All his music is there as well. Go and purchase something on Bandcamp. Go and purchase his music there as well. I just love doing these interviews. I want to thank you too for being so candid and open about your career and allowing me to play your music and everything that you do. I look up to you so very much, and I've come away from this so much better, and I know a lot of people have too. So we're going to go out today and play this. We're going to go right back to the basics. We've seen you playing all these amazing instruments that people have never seen in their life before, but we're going to go out with something simple and just you and a guitar playing a song to me that when I heard you play this, I bawled my eyes out last night because I love this song so much. This is a Radiohead cover, my friends, of Present Tense.
Favorite song of Radiohead. I love this song so much.
They are just an amazing band. That, you know, there's a handful of bands for me that are crazy, like Mr. Bungle and all this crazy shit that I love. But there's some bands out there that just hit me every time emotionally. Radiohead, Muse, Counting Crows, and this song does it for me every time. And I just love the rawness. And it just really shows the talent that you have. So if you can hang on to just at the end, so when we finish the show, I can say goodbye to you off the air, that would be awesome. Thank you, everybody, for being here. You're rock. We got a big weekend of stuff coming up as well. Music cracking tomorrow. I'll be cracking on with my song for Songtember. I want to thank, of course, DistroKid up the top there. Remember, you can use the link. It's 7% off. I can't thank DistroKid enough. All jokes aside, this channel wouldn't exist without you guys who are members on the channel, who provide super chats. Like I saw one just come through there from Andy. So thank you for that, Andy. And my Patreons. You really help keep this little machine going all the time. So thank you all so very much. Let's play this song. This is Radiohead Present Tense, and you're going to love it. It is fucking awesome. Let's do it. Remember, folks, do the things that make you happy. Mistakes make you better. And we will all rise together. We'll see you soon.
Like a weapon of self-defense, self-defense against the presence, against the presence, the present tense. Don't wanna get heavy, and don't get heavy. Keep it light and keep it moving. I am doing no harm as my world comes crashing down. I'll be dancing, freaking out, deaf, dumb, and blind. In you I'm lost, in you I'm lost. I won't turn around when the penny drops. I won't slack now, I won't slack off, for all this love would be in vain. Stop from falling down the mine. It's no one's business but mine, for all this love has been in vain. In you I'm lost, in you I'm lost. In you I'm lost, in you I'm lost. We'll all rise together, 'cause you make me shine better.